Welcome back to Find 'em, Fix 'em, Race 'em. Today we are going to be doing a little more work. We're going to put the side case on this Can-Am. I got some parts so I can show you that. So we're going to put the side case on. Replacement seal for the Kickstarter shaft. It's the wrong one, of course. It's too small. So, but I'm not gonna wait for more parts, but you should always, if the clutch cable's not very good, which mine isn't very good, you should replace it because you can't replace the clutch cable without taking the side cover off. That's just the way it's designed. Also, you cannot replace the seal for the clutch. Well, you always have to take the clutch off to replace the clutch seal, but the clutch seal was wrong, so I can't replace that. But I just want to throw it together and see if the bike actually even runs. If I need to, I'll go back and I'll replace whatever I need to down the road. But I just want to see if it runs and moves and what it's like, because I'm getting antsy. I just want to be able to go ride it a little bit. I got the side case hanging on the clutch cable. It's all clean. I got the cases all clean. I put the new carb boot on. Now, one thing that you do need to kind of note, I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well. Right there, you can see that there is a little, worn in piece. That's from the factory. And it should go on this one, it says GB right at the top. That's when that's pointed at the top. But what that actually does is gives you room for when the bolt goes in, that it's not rubbing on the rubber, because that little cutout that's in there is already there. So it doesn't have to rub, it's not gonna rub on the bolt. So there is an orientation for putting that in. And then I tucked the clamp up underneath. I couldn't really see in the owner's manual, it did, or the shop manual, it did show it kind of up in there, so that's where I put that. I do have some grease on the kickstart seal lip on the outside here on the lip. So that's ready to go. I'm just gonna do one more quick clean of the engine case, and then I'm gonna put sealant on it, and I'm going to seal it up, torque it. I think it's 6 foot-pounds. Brake clean evaporates very quickly, especially in Arizona. And it's a good cleaner, it's a good solvent. So spray that on, let it dry. I have this Honda Bond HT. It's what I did my engine cases on. I have a KX250 that I rebuilt the whole bottom end of the motor, and this is what I use for the cases, so that's what I'm going to use for this. You don't need to put it just needs to be a thin coat. It doesn't have to be super thick. There's different ways you can do it, but I'm just going to smear it on with my finger. I've had good enough luck with that. So, go ahead and take these off because you can't quite see as good. I'm just going to put a little thin coat. Hopefully this isn't gonna dry too fast because it's 8 billion degrees in here. Just stick. I can't even tell where I have sealant and where it don't. This is just a friggin' nightmare. Just what the? in some places and none in others. This is just stupid. Why not use a gasket? I don't understand, Can-Am. You know, people have been using gaskets on clutch covers since the invention of clutch covers. What's so wrong about that? All right, I'm gonna call that good. So, just make sure you hook your clutch cable before you do this, because if you forget to do that, you're gonna be cussing, because it's not much fun to pull it back off again. That's great. Just stay up there, out of the way. Okay, will you try to go? Now, let's get started. This is this one. It says assemble torque retaining screws, 8 Newton meters, 6 foot-pounds, following crisscross sequence, and apply a small drop of oil with thin grease, which I didn't do to the threads. It'll be all right. I'm gonna use torque wrench. 6 foot-pounds is super low for this torque wrench, but and they're not supposed to be really accurate, but I don't know. You probably don't need to torque it. We'll see. Kind of. It's on there. I'll wipe off any excess I got. Not too bad. Just wipe it off, and then you know, I'll let it cure a day or so before I put fluid in it, and then we can see if it leaks, which it probably will. Let's just be honest. But you know, did we slow the leaking down? That's, you know, the most important part. Morning, everybody. I'm back from vacation. Just gonna try not to die of heat exhaustion in the garage. It's saying it's already almost 90. It's probably about 8, maybe 7:30 in the garage, but I'm gonna do a little work on the carburetor to the 80 that had the higher compression. I think that's gonna be the bike that I'm gonna try to get running first. The guy said that it wouldn't idle right, and he cleaned the carburetor, but looking at this particular carburetor, if he cleaned it, it definitely wasn't the outside in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean it the way I clean it. I don't know what's the right way. I know most people just take the bowl off and spray carb cleaner in the orifices, but I've never been that guy. I take it all apart. I clean the outside of the carburetor. I want to see what jetting is in it and see what I'm going to do on that. So let's get started. I want to make sure you get the right screwdriver. This one fits pretty good. And I want to strip these Phillips heads out easily enough. Either they've been replaced or someone was using the right screwdriver on them, because it's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. Yeah, she's old school. She has the old rail. Whoa! rail, why did I mess those up? Pretty sure that's the way to go. Well, it looks pretty clean in there. I would say he did clean it, although, well, might be a bit of a stretch. Pull the old. This just has the arm. I thought it's supposed to be stuck on there or not. Let's take a look at the needle, which seems to be stuck. Or is it just because it has this little clippy on it? It's just its little clip. I haven't worked on a Mikuni in a while. Everything I have has got key-ins on it. So I haven't worked on a Mikuni since I had like my 2004 RM250, I think. Doesn't look terrible. Springs still springs. I wouldn't exactly call it super clean in here. What do we got for a jet? So I could ask the stock 310 in it, which is I think what is stock, which might be a tad rich for the elevation I'm at. I mean, it would have been really rich for bend if that's the stock jetting, because it's like 3,600 feet, I think, in bend. And if it's got the stock main in it, that is probably pretty rich. I guess what I'm going to do is just slap this back on it. I'm just going to leave this out. Just so it's holes closed. And then I'm going to clean the outside of the carburetor. What I like to do is just get a little pick or something. Try to get all the dirt and grime out of little cracks and crevices. Because it's just going to come off, or it may not, depending on how good you clean it. But I just like to get all this gunk out and off the carburetor before I even start cleaning it. It's just less stuff to get into the carburetor, which is less stuff to clean up later. You know, am I making more work for myself digging all this dirt out of here? It's just more dirt that can fall in the carburetor. Yeah, you know how it goes. But whatever makes you feel comfortable when it comes to your carburetor, I say that's what you do. You want to just spray some carb cleaner on the outside and say you rebuilt it? Well, that's up to you. But the number one thing that kills a dirt bike, and everybody knows this, maybe people forget about it, is getting dirt in your motor. You get dirt in your motor through the carburetor, or when you clean it, or through the air filter, or through the air box, or in anywhere. Dirt kills engines. So the number one thing you want to do is try to keep dirt out of your motor. So the more clean you can make this, and I know I should probably use the parts washer and do it that way, or have some fancy ultrasonic cleaner, but we're just gonna do the best we can with what we got. So we're just gonna scrape all the mud off, grime off, and we're gonna get some gas, which I would say don't clean with gas, but I've done it for years. If you're not a smoker and you don't have a lot of open flames, probably okay. For the brain cells, maybe not so much, but we're dirt bike riders, so how much brain cells did we have in the first place, I say. If you're like me and still riding around on motorcycles in your 50s, we both know you're not very smart. Well, you're smart, but maybe just a bit touched. I don't know, that's what everybody tells me. Because seems like most of the people that I meet just, don't get it. And that's okay. 'Cause you just need, kind of need to find your people. If you like to talk to yourself all the time and people think you're crazy for it, if you just film it, then you're a YouTuber. You're not a lunatic. Handy tech tip. I honestly don't know if that works. That's what I'm going with. Anybody ask, hey, why are you in your garage talking to yourself all the time? Oh, I got a YouTube channel. Want to watch it? No, you don't. We know you don't. But that's okay. Everybody's got a YouTube channel. All the kids are doing it, I would use this as a bit of advice. If you're ever hauling a bike and it doesn't have the carburetor on it, and your needle is just hanging off the throttle cable, don't go put your bike on a trailer or behind your pickup, because this is just going to be bashing off the bike and the frame and everything. You can dent this all up. You can bend the needle. It's not good. You don't want to do that. So my advice is just take the slide off. That's what I did. That's grade A clean right there. So I'm just gonna, once again, try to get the big crap off. So now what I'm gonna do, just gonna put a little gas, huff those fumes. This carburetor surprisingly looks pretty decent. Sometimes the slides can just be worn out. If you get an old bike like this and it just won't run right, no matter what you do, new carburetor might be the ticket. But generally these old, I've never had too much problems with my vintage bikes having worn out carburetors. In fact, the only bike I ever had any major carburetor problems with, that was somewhat older, was my KDX 200. And that carburetor it didn't want to work. It just, no matter what I did, it would not jet. So I just replaced it. Problem solved. Ooh, that's that nice black goofy stuff coming out of there. Oh yeah. I like to get that out. So that is just, kind of the initial clean to get all this, I don't know if you can see this brown gooky stuff in there. A lot of dirt. Just to get the big dirt off the outside. So hopefully when you take it apart, all that dirt doesn't go on the inside. Well, I put the float, the needle, the seat, the little flapper for the pin. So now you have the main jet. This is the main jet. 6mm. Should come right out. Shouldn't be in there too hard. On these, you're going to get this little thing out as well. The inner piece may even come out as well, but so there's that. See if you can tell what this bad boy is. My eyesight. Sure looks like a 310. 310, I'm pretty sure, is stock. So there is a jetting guide in the Can-Am owner's manual that tells you kind of what you need to do for altitude and temperature. This is the slow jet. I think I'd already loosened it up. So hopefully, either that or I'm not doing anything. There it goes. This is your slow jet. I assume this is probably stock.
So, nope, you can see through it. I didn't think, oh, maybe I can't. No. Maybe that's why it wouldn't idle. It said it wouldn't idle. It looks like this is plugged. I don't see any light coming through the center of it. So, yeah. If your slow jet's plugged, it's not going to idle very well because there's no fuel getting through to idle. Air screw is 2 turns out, so that's, you know, pretty standard. Hopefully there isn't too much wind from this fan blowing so you can't hear me. Should be a little spring in there, which there is. Looks all right. Okie doke. So if your floats, if they go under, shouldn't have any bubbles coming out of your float. Well, one, they should float because they're called floats. 2, you shouldn't have a bunch of air bubbles coming out when you submerge them. I would say my floats are floating, so I don't see any big problems with those. So just spoosh them off, put them over on my clean rag. I guess I could check the main jet and make sure she's, oh yeah, she's clean. Like I said, I'm probably gonna change it just because I don't know. It's gonna be pretty rich for here. So I may go buy a jet. On these metal needles, you wanna see if there's any kind of step in them. It doesn't look like there is on this. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that thing's, she's plugged. So I don't know if I have a piece of wire that's small enough to go in there. I'm just gonna let that soak in there for a while, and maybe if we get lucky, it will dissolve whatever is stuck in there, but I have a feeling that it's probably not going to. I'm gonna be careful with these little slides for your float. You don't want to bend those because if they don't move up and down smoothly, then you may not shut the gas off from that either, just because it's sticking. So float should slide up and down on those easily without any resistance. Okay. Pretty good. You're going to want to, after you get it clean, of course, you're going to want to blow all the orifices out with compressed air. Or you can do carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, whatever, but I like compressed air because it's at a little higher pressure. These kind of slides are kind of interesting in that they have, you can't just take the needle out like a modern one where when you pull the throttle cable, it actually has Phillips screws in there. I have no idea if this is going to work. That are completely loose. So these weren't even tight. Probably wouldn't want that because if these jiggle out, yeah, it wouldn't be good. Not even tight. Like finger tight. Probably should be a little more than finger tight. But this holds in your needle in these old school carbs, so it makes it a little bit harder to adjust your needle because you have to take those 2 screws out and that little plate to get your needle. needle is in actually one leaner than stock, which I may leave. I think kind of when I read something where that was the hot ticket, but it's possible. It's pretty easy to change. I believe stock is in the middle position. Now, as you move this clip up, it actually makes it leaner, because what this does is this goes into the slide. This controls how much air is coming into the carburetor. And when this is through here, when you move the clip up, it actually allows this to go down into the main jet even further, which lets less fuel through, which causes it to run leaner. If you want it to run richer, you move this clip down, and that will actually raise the clip and let even more fuel come through. So it's, you know, jetting is just basically running fuel and air through holes of different sizes. Well, you're really not changing the air. The only thing that adjusts the air is the air screw. What you're really doing is adjusting fuel and keeping your air constant, except for, of course, temperature and humidity and elevation, which all affect jetting. But in my general life, I guess, in jetting, if you can get it jetted pretty close for your climate, where you are, where you normally ride, and you can get it jetted for that, and it's running good, it's not that hard to jet. I mean, you don't have to make it perfect if you go up in elevation. But if you have it jetted correctly, you can use that jetting guide, and Can-Am says, hey, if you go up, 2,000 feet, you may want to go to one smaller range jet, because there's going to be less air up there. You're going to need less fuel to lean it out. So, yeah, that's jetting. A lot of people don't do it, but man, you're leaving, especially if you're racing or just in general, if you want your bike to run good, it's actually safer if your bike's really jetted well and it doesn't bog or sputter or do anything weird. Because the last thing you want it to do is sometimes sputter on a jump, or when it's in the mid-range, it burbles or whatever. You don't want that. Plus, you're leaving a lot of horsepower on the table. A properly jetted, maybe 250, I would say you were probably leaving maybe as much as 3 horsepower difference between a bike that is jetted properly, like right on the money, and one that is really rich, or lean for that matter. Now, the thing with jetting is, if you have a bike like this one and it has stock jetting and you're running it at elevation, and is it gonna ever seize up because you made it too lean? No, it is not. It'll run. It might foul plugs, fill up the, exhaust with spooge. If you got spooge coming out your exhaust, that black goo that comes out of your 2-stroke exhaust, that's just unburnt fuel. If you have unburnt fuel coming out of your exhaust, you're too rich, way too rich. But you're never gonna blow a bike up because it's rich. When you blow a bike up, it's because it's too lean. Because it's not getting enough fuel, which causes it to run really hot. You can burn a hole in the top of the piston. Bad things can happen. So you don't want to run a bike too close to the edge of death, in my opinion. I mean, if you're a pro and you've got a factory mechanic and you're rebuilding your engine every week, can you run a bike on the ragged edge of lean, right where it's just making the absolute most perfect power? Sure. For the average guy, if you just get it so it's a pretty decent golden brown and you don't have spooge coming out your exhaust, that's probably good. Make sure the rubber part on the bottom of your choke is in decent shape. I mean, if it isn't sealing, it could make it run really rich. I think I've replaced them, but the only time I've ever replaced a choke knob is usually because it gets bent. The actual knob itself the shaft gets bent because somebody pulled it out sideways or something stupid. This one looks pretty good, so I'm probably gonna say it's okay. Now back to our slow jet. Is it still plugged? Yeah. Okay. So I have a, put this down because it's a little fumy. A torch cleaning kit. And I'm going to see if I can get the, see if I can. What you don't want to do is like go in there too hard and make this hole bigger, because this hole is what controls the fuel coming through. So if you use something that's too big and try to force it in there, you may end up making your jet bigger, which if you do that, then you've changed your jetting. Oh, there we go. Oh, I think I can see through it now. Yep. I don't know what was in there, but it's out now. And he said it wouldn't idle. That'll make it not idle, for sure. It won't idle if it's got a plugged up slow jet, because that's actually what controls how much fuel goes through when it's idling, and your air screw to a certain extent. But yep, whatever is in there is out now. So I'm going to plug in the air compressor, blow out all the orifices. So what you want to do is just blow out your main jet hole, your needle and seat hole, pilot hole. See how it blew crap out of there. Vent tubes. So tech tip is that I want to make sure air's going through all the vents. If you ever have a bike that will run when it's cold, start it up. It runs perfect. Runs absolutely beautiful. Run, run. As soon as it gets a little heat in it, it just dies and won't run. This is probably not a carburetor issue. That's probably a venting issue. I had that once. And if you ever have that, it's probably a vent issue, because the fuel tank's getting pressurized and it's not allowing fuel to come into the carburetor. If you ever have that and it dies, just go take the gas cap off. If it starts right back up and runs good, you just need a new gas cap. Cheap and easy fix. So just blow all these orifices out, take a look in, make sure you can see them. The vent tubes aren't plugged. Put the slow jet back in because I fixed that. Where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. I also want to make sure that these cross tubes aren't plugged, and you can see through it. Now this thing will flow some fuel through it. It'll probably idle. I don't know for sure, but, and that's kind of one of the drawbacks if you're just a spray and pray kind of guy, where you just take the bowl off the thing and just start spraying carb clean in. Well, if you don't actually take the jet out, you're not going to know it's plugged. And carb clean is probably not going to unplug it. It might, but it might not. So that's why you want to take the jets out. At least take the jets out. Using carb cleaner to clean is fine, but always take the jets out so you know if they're plugged. So the slow jet's back in there. You don't want to over tighten this stuff. It's brass.